Oh, yeah, we gotta get a little hillbilly music, get the blood pumping. I always like to play that intro because Big Russ, my hubby, made it for me. Y'all, welcome in. So I'm gonna play one more little video. We're expecting a couple of guests, and of course, our honored returning, I'm just gonna call him a co-host at this point, for Grumpy Tech Bro, who's just a little bit grumpier, and I'd say for good reason. We're gonna talk about all of that. So, y'all, thank you for coming in. Please make sure you have liked and shared this out. We are streaming across YouTube, Facebook, and right here on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter. All right, y'all, let's go.
She walks in, coffee in hand, name badge swinging like a brand, wild and wired on her sleeve. Every whisper she retrieves. She's got tabs open in her mind, deadlines racing double time. Blink once, whole story's gone. She's three-ply twists ahead, move on. Regina knows the news, Regina knows the gossip. Say it to a friend, she already clocked it. One hell of an opinion, better pick your side. Regina runs the room for Wild and Wired.
Hey, Regina runs the room for Wild and Wired. Welcome in, y'all. My name is Regina Connell. This is Wild and Wired Media, where the coffee is strong, the opinions are stronger. And today is Grumpy Story Hour. He's back on the scene. His account is officially back. If you joined us last week for our live stream on Wednesday, he was still suspended. We thought we were getting it back, but guess what? He is back, and he is grumpier than ever. He's going to share with us how he was able to get his account restored, the things that we should look for as account users and content creators on the X platform. We're going to talk about the boost feature on the X platform. We've got a couple of special guests coming in. Mr. Moondev's supposed to show up to chop it up with Grumpy Tech Bro about the boost feature. So I think it's very important information for all of us to know. And then, yes, we're going to dip into the SCOTUS rulings because it goes back into the mail-in ballot. A ruling was just handed down, and we believe that a post that Grumpy Tech Bro made may have been the culprit as to why his account was suspended. So we'll talk about all of that. And then we have another great guest. Super Trucker is coming in because Grumpy's going to fill us in. This is the meat and potatoes, y'all. He's got all I know about it is DOT tool. I'm going to let him explain all of that to you. If you've joined us before, you know Grumpy Tech Bro does not like fraud. He treats it like it insulted his motherboard. So don't do it. He'll find you and he'll find what's going on. He's got great information. So without further ado, we're going to bring up Grumpy. We thank you all for joining. Get your comments in here and we'll get them pinned just like this. I am around, face pink, drinking tea. Good. You're drinking tea, Mr. Moondip. All right, Grumpy, come on up. Come on up. Uh-oh. Wait, you're behind me. I see these stupid layouts. Hold on. There you go.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so if you don't know me, I'm Grumpy Tech Bro. I'm grumpier now, though my handle is Grumpy Tech Bro. So why am I grumpier? I'm grumpier because I got suspended for about 5 days last week, and I will go over why I got suspended. So let me present. Let's see. Can I do share screen? Let's see. Let's just
I'll see it when it
blah.
pops
I don't
up
want
there.
to see the tips again, and I can do.
Oh, Super Trucker's in the house. Is it okay to bring him on up?
Yep.
Wait, y'all, please be patient with me. These stupid layouts are going to be the death of me today. Hold on, I'm going to get everybody up here. So we've got Super Trucker in the house. I'm going to let him introduce himself real quick. My name is Regina Connell. It's so nice to meet you. So here we go. Boom. There's Super Trucker. Thanks for coming in. Go ahead and introduce yourself while I try to fiddle with these layouts. Grumpy, thank you for being patient with me. I don't know what I would do without Grumpy Tech Bro. I would never do a live stream if it weren't for him. So welcome in.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, Grumpy, didn't know the guy until the other night. He reached out to me in the DMs saying he was digging into a bunch of trucking stuff. So I figured I'd chime in where I
And we
could.
wanted you here because you're the trucking expert, and I do not know. I had to learn all this like a week ago. So
Many
the
such
story,
cases.
yeah, the way I got into the trucking stuff is because I had met Callie Doge, and he introduced me to maybe Danielle
Yeah.
when we started doing like anti-corruption stuff together. And then I started reading what maybe Danielle was posting in her profile, and I saw her interacting with you, and so I started following you. And then that led to she had posted a lot about um, chameleon carriers and things like that. And then I was like, oh, I should get her data. And she said, oh, you can get that directly from the Department of Transportation. And I'm like, aha, I will do that. And so I had it sitting around for a while. And then when I was, I had it all ingested in my giant database of NGO data. And I had added the FEC and Medicare and DOT. And then when I got suspended, Grok.com was still talking to me, but Grok Build wasn't anymore. So I said, oh, what am I going to do? I said, hey, I should go look into that DOT data. And so then I built a tool and looked at like the top 100 sketchy accounts. So let me talk about getting suspended. So I felt strongly about a post that I'll go over in a second. And I thought it would be worth $100 to save America. And I set up a budget for $10 a day for 10 days. I could afford that. And the thing is, you should never use Boost if you're political, because boosting shows your post outside your tribe. And the more truthful it is, the more it will bug the people who are against that tribe's cages. And the my anti-tribe loves to pile on and super report me. And I know that everything I said was true, and that's actually more annoying to the people that hate you than if you just mock them or something. So that's just a guess. But anyway, so the thing I posted about is Schumer likes to quote this 25 million people are going to get kicked off, aren't going to be able to vote. And then MAGA says, oh, well, that means there's 25 million illegals. Well, that's not quite true. Being me and knowing that Schumer knows nothing, because Congress critters don't know anything, right? They go to work every day and they spend all the time on their phone trying to raise money to get back in Congress. This is like they're applying to their job every day or to people with money. And so they just do whatever their staff tells them. So their staff tells them this thing and says, hey, 25 million people are going to aren't going to be able to vote. Well, that's from a Cato, and those are the pro-immigrant libertarian nut job think tank in DC. And there's a study they did, and they did a poll, and they asked people if they could find a birth certificate in 24 hours. Well, that's a bullshit question, right? No, I would have to go to the Vital Statistics website for Ventura County and order one, and it would take more than 24 hours. But meanwhile, as part of the SAVE Act, DHS is going to stand up a web service to validate citizenship in 30 seconds. It's already built because they needed to do that to validate Social Security and Medicare and all these other federally funded services. And so that's probably why the Ds are so pissed about Doge. I'm a data nerd. So one of the things I get that Elon did that most people don't is, for a long time, we've assumed that Social Security number equals person, but that wasn't true. Right? Elon got there and found out it wasn't true. They had people that were, 120 years old and that we were sending checks to. And he's like, what the hell is going on? Well, actually, we weren't sending checks to them, but, they were on the rolls. And that meant none of the other federal agencies could trust the Social Security data to mean that it was actually a citizen. And so that was one of the things Doge fixed is it said, okay, social security number equals a single person, and we're going to have to fix that. And that means we're going to have to call some of these people who have like 10 addresses and figure out which one they are and things like that. I mean, correlate it with the IRS and so on, right? I mean, it's not impossible. It's just grindy data stuff, right? And this is what data nerds do. So anyways, so the SAVE Act has extra funds for hosting it and having people walk through all the county electoral IT folks and how to use it. So I wouldn't even need to get my birth certificate. But there's also two parts to voting. There's registering, which you do months ahead of time, and then voting, which just needs a regular ID to prove who you are. So even the old way would be fine. So conclusion is Schumer is a moron, liar / idiot, all three. There aren't necessarily 25 million illegals. Might be more, might be less. And 3 was pass the SAVE Act. So I nerded out on election fraud after Bush versus Gore. And the classic way to cheat in elections was to drive a busload of folks with fake registrations around to different polling places. And with mail-in ballots, you don't even need to rent a bus.
I was just about to say that if I could just step in here on the dance floor and piggyback on that. So let's pause the mail-in ballots for just a second because I'm not sure the conversations you've had with Super Trucker. I definitely want to hear about this DOT tool that you're talking about. And then I want to get back to the mail-in ballots because we know that recent legislation has been handed down. And like you said, well, dang, you don't even need to drive the busload of people around because now they have 5 days after election day for that vote to be counted as long as it's postmarked by election day. So y'all let us know. Go ahead and start filling up the comment section how you feel about that. I'm going to get these comments pinned. They are coming in. So finish your thought, Grumpy, and then let's pivot and find out what's going on because I don't know too much about the DO tool that you were talking about. I wanted you to really get in depth about that and hear from Super Trucker too. So what do you think?
Oh,
you're asking me?
Yeah, yeah. Well, he doesn't know about the tool yet.
I really want to know. I want to see this DOT tool because I worked with a handful of similar tools. You know, is this something you built just to go through like the FMCSA database?
Yeah, it just goes through the DOT database, and I ingested it all into a local. Well, that's probably weeds for you, but I ingested in a local database, and then I wrote a thing to generate a report, and I knew I wanted to look by address, and then it evolved over the next few days because, as I said, even though I was suspended, Grok.com would still talk to me. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll pivot to something else. And so I started building the tool, and then I started looking at the data, and I noticed first that there were a bunch of carriers registered to the same address. And so you pull out, like if I looked at this, if I look at the report, this Crossways Boulevard, Suite 250, Chesapeake, Virginia, 23320 address, there are 74,000 trucks registered to it with 141 rows, which means that's 141 different carriers, and of 8 types of things.
Did you have?
So that's just the first line.
Does this need to go up on the view screen? I see that you have a share screen down here. Forgive me for breaking in. This right here.
Oh yeah, you should share that. Yes.
There you go. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm trying to do better. Let me know. Say, hey, Regina, put that up on the screen.
Yeah, okay, one thing you need to also figure out too with DOT, you got to realize the DOT database is like a dumpster fire. We've always referred to it as just an absolute dumpster fire because all the data that's in there is self-reported. These are there's a form you fill out when you're registering a new trucking company called an MCS 150. And it's you typing in all of your information, giving it to the federal government, and then they chunk it into this federal database. It is how every carrier vetting platform out there works. They go by the data provided to them by FMCSA. FMCSA relies upon the data submitted to them by the carriers. A lot of times we notice when you're, so I like that you're doing like the address matching and all that. You also have to figure out a way to, and this is something Garrett has really spent a lot of time and effort on. You have to normalize a lot of this address data because sometimes they'll have the same address but different suite numbers, or it might be a different mailbox number, or we've even seen instances where it's the same street address, but it's on the border between two different towns. And so you might have one that says 123 Main Street, Apple, New Jersey, and then it'll be 123 Main Street, Apple, New York. And it's the same carrier.
I have some of that. So I already have some of the address normalization in terms of formatting the address the same all the time.
Awesome.
And then I'm in the process, my computer is grinding away in this right now, of geolocating all the addresses. And then I do that to like 35 feet, which gives you like a building. And then I have a loose co-locator that is broader and that maps to like the post office and things like that. And you can do joins and zip codes and things like that. And that's like the next step, but that's really slow to do. I mean, I can do like 10,000 addresses at a time via the census API, but it only gets like 90% of the addresses. And then I have to do other services to get the next percentage. And then finally Grok gets like the rest. And as you say, this is garbage in, garbage out, but I'm a data nerd, right? So this is what I do. But so what I noticed is my thing is like people talk about machine learning, but I always do pure learning first, which is I look at the data and see what the data is telling me. So the data is telling me is that this first address has 74,000 trucks and 141 different carriers and so on. And then I'm like, okay, and I want to go look at that. And so if I go here and I go to detail, it will bring up this thing. And then the interesting thing, so I can scroll this down, I can just read, and it groups these all. So this is all, there's a charity there, there's officers, and then there's this Joint Logistics Incorporated, and they own the 74,000 trucks. So that's pretty legitimate. And you notice most of them are active too. So they own trucks and they run them, and they're not like inactive.
Yeah,
there's one inactive carrier, and
the fleet counts that's in this MCS 150, that is also self-reported. We had an address in Philadelphia that was like a row home, and it wasn't an active carrier. It was just a DOT number. They didn't have a motor carrier authority. But he had, I think, like 107,000 trucks that he said. So a lot of these could just be typos. What we look for when we're looking at carriers and whether they're like lying, et cetera, is like address matching is a good one, but also compare the number of trucks they say they have versus the number of trucks with inspections that they have over time. So if you got, you're looking at inspections.
Yes, I don't think I had that data.
Yeah. If you, I love this. You're going to go down 20 different rabbit holes once you start. I feel so sorry. Well, I don't know you personally, but you say you're a data nerd, and I'm telling you, you've just like opened up a spigot and it's just going to start spraying in your face, and you're going to go, I can't stop it. And it's going to go from like a spigot to a fire hydrant to, a hole in a dam. So I just want to like prepare you, because once you start digging into what they report versus like what is actually found on them when they get inspected and that gets recorded, it's just insane, the stuff you'll find. I like finding carriers that they'll say like, oh yeah, we have 5 trucks, and then you find out they have like 57 trucks with inspections. There's other data platforms like Genlogs where it's kind of like Flock, but they have cameras instead of like in parks and streets and stuff. It's cameras pointed on the highways, and they record trucks going around all day long. And if you have a truck with a DOT and an MC number on the side of that truck, that's recorded, and you can visually confirm exactly how many trucks they have on the road. So if they say to the FMCSA, yeah, we only have 5 trucks, but I see 50 trucks on Genlogs, I'm picking up the phone and calling their insurance company and saying, hey, do you guys know about these guys? Because they're committing insurance fraud.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, I would like VIN numbers too. I mean, the government has the VIN numbers, but I don't. It's not in the public data, and I would like to track.
If the truck has been inspected, the VIN number is recorded. That's another way we track them down too. Is if you have, say, a green Freightliner with VIN number 1234, and it's going from company to company to company with inspections, and those inspections are going back and forth between one company to another, that's a sign of a chameleon carrier. It's not always a guarantee if the dates are sequential. Like if it goes from the green Freightliner goes from trucking company ABC sells the truck to trucking company XYZ, and so now it'll show up with inspections on 2 different companies. But if you can see that the date ranges of the inspections don't overlap with each other, then that's just a truck that's been bought and sold.
Yeah, well, I actually wanted that to know because my cousin was a trucker for a while, and he stopped because he got in like 2 accidents in a row from like falling asleep at the wheel, and because we're human, right? And you can only do what you can only do, and I want from finding the active and inactive. That was one of the things I noticed at first was like there are all these things that are marked inactive. So when we get into this, like those people are all active, but let's go into this one. This is 5353 East City North Drive, Phoenix, Arizona. And I'll go to the detail here. And what do I see? They have 0 inactive, and this is Allied Waste. This is I call this Tony Soprano is alive and well in Phoenix, Arizona. This guy is not suspect.
Give me the what I'm talking about, 53.
And 53. I didn't know if you know this, Super Trucker, but you should be able to make the screen, if you click on the view screen above your little box, if you hover over it, there should be a thing where you can maximize the screen to see it better.
Okay, yeah, it's just a little green. I have my laptop screen and then my larger monitor in front of me.
Okay, cool.
All I'm doing is every address that he's giving me, I'm punching it into the tool that Garrett built, Search Carriers, and I have it on a map view. So when I go into the map here, I can see that address. They have 93 companies registered there.
Yeah,
and I mean it's everything from, wow, a lot of them is the same company over and over again. NJN Trucking Inc. NJN Trucking Inc. Owls Trucking, Scottsdale Marriott.
Yeah, and I'll point out there's 40 of these are already marked suspicious if I switch to all. And that's because, why did I mark this one? This one, let's go look at this one. I'll show you this in Google Maps. So if I do the Street View here, you see this is a mailbox place.
Did you switch your tabs for the Google Maps?
Oh, I did. You're right. Let's see. How do I do that?
So share this tab instead at the upper top.
I should share the screen instead, huh? Let's see.
Yeah.
If I do, let's share, present and stop screen and present, share screen.
Sorry.
And can I share window? There we go.
Yes, you can. I'll see it pop up. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm just going to show our StreamYard. So we're going to do a little recursion. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so now we're going to go to Google Maps. There we go. Okay, so the Street View I use a lot. So this is some kind of like strip mall office thing. And if I zoom in here, we can see that this is a mailbox place. So this is like not a legit address. This is not a legit physical address, or it's that thing right there. I don't know.
So what, can I just break in here and ask a question? So this is also fascinating. So what would be the purpose of this happening? What, like, is it like a shell company? Is that what's happening?
No, a lot of these are just addresses that have been registered via like an agent. So instead of, if I want to start a trucking company and I register it at my home address, and that's where I park my trucks and have all my paperwork, I'll just use a third-party intermediary to do all that for me, so I can just focus on driving and getting everything out and making some money. It's very sloppy the way a lot of these companies work if they're registering everything all at the same address. Conversations we've had with leadership at FMCSA was that they were going to go through the entire database, rank everything by number of clusters of addresses, and they were going to start sending out letters, and they were going to give these guys 2 weeks to respond and either update their address or have their authority revoked. And that's just an ongoing process. You got to realize there are over 600,000 trucking companies operating in the U.S., and there are maybe 300 investigators inside the FMCSA, and they have to play by the rules. If they start waving the hammer and start smashing these guys, they can sue, win, and then get paid for whatever business they've lost.
So this tool, this is kind of funny, Grumpy. My uncle, Lord rest his soul. He had a trucking company that he had for many, many years out of Austin, Texas. So this is live. So if I were to say, hey, you could look up this trucking company out of Austin, Texas, you would be able to see all kinds of stuff like you're pulling up now.
Well, not in this tool because I'm not presenting like all of it. I just did the top 100. So out of the top 100, 40 of them have suspicious addresses without me reviewing any of them, right? And the idea is you go through and you bring it up and you look at it. And I built it just for speed of reviewing. So I go in and I pick a particular trucking company and I say, oh, I want to do that. And then I pop over the detail and then I can go review it. And then I can pop back. And so and then it becomes like a to-do list. So I reviewed 2 of these already. So if I turn on unreviewed, you see, and all the ones that like had suspicious PO boxes just disappeared. So I have less to do now.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I'm doing. And I only did the top 100. And that was just because, I was testing out the tool. I just wanted to see what I could do. And then the thing is, we live in an age of miracle and wonders. These people, they don't realize that like, we don't have to like fly to, someplace in Texas and go drive out to the address. We can go in Google Maps and say Street View and say, oh, wait, this is a mailbox place. And then, the Department of Transportation could send them a letter, which I could even write them a program that would print out the letter if they gave me a stack of it, letterhead, and they can send to the thing saying, hey, you don't have a legitimate address. So, and that would do the 40. And then all the ones that I did on top of that, I did like another 33 on top of those 40 that are just obvious PO boxes to say, hey, this is not a real address, or this is sketchy, or things like that. And there's some funny ones. That was just me like working the problem, right? I'm following the data. I'm like, let me bring up this one with
Mr. Martin, when you're ready, I just noticed you have a share screen as well. So if you want me to pop that up there, just jump in and be like, hey, take a look at this.
Yeah, let Grumpy finish his talking point. I just wanted to show you one of the addresses that he had pulled up earlier, so we can get some better context.
Cool.
I think I have an idea of what's going on at this address.
Go ahead, Grumpy.
Yeah, what's going on at the address?
So the corporate offices of this waste management company, they have all of their state affiliate offices registered there. So it's going to be, Environmental of Virginia, Fort Worth, Regional Disposal, Alabama. Those are all going to be located within just this one little company office here. Now, that's fine and legit for those guys, but then you really got to go through and dig. And I picked one company here at random, American Disposal of Illinois, and you can see not just where the company is located and everything, but you can see like their out of service rate, which is horrendous, and then their vehicle inspections. So they've been inspected only once this year. Let's see what they did.
How often should they be inspected, or does it depend by state?
Depends by state. I mean, I say the state of the industry, what it is now, scales should be open 24/7. They really need to be going through and flagging every single truck that they find. We'll see joint ice operations like Operation Guardian in Oklahoma, probably
Operation Country Roads here in West Virginia.
Yep. And every single time they run one of these operations, it's like not 1 or 2 or 10, it's like 100, 150 trucks that they find that are driving with guys in the country illegally.
Sorry,
this guy,
hold on,
improper securement and operating. This is a weird one. Oh, didn't have a medical card. Okay, so that's the nice thing about all this government data. It's public record, and anytime a truck gets pulled over for an inspection, that inspection is recorded, and you can see exactly what they were written up in violation for. This is not a good use case for this company because this is a disposal, so of course they're going to have a bunch of other companies in common. But what we typically see with chameleon carriers, so if I go into their network graph, we would typically see, this is the company, and then these are all the links that they have in common with whatever other companies. So yeah, this is just one corporate company with a bunch of state affiliates. Let me put this into radial.
Yeah, and I could just tell that from my tool, right? I could just loaded it up, and I'm like, oh, because they're all, and I just did it by names, right? And you can tell there's one in here that's like Joe's Moving, and it's like, and he's got a whole bunch of trucks, and there's also Joe's Moving and things like that.
This kind of stuff gets a lot more fun though when you start looking for address clusters. So what you're looking at is a company cluster. So it's a bunch of companies all within one office. But the stuff I like to look for is like, let's look Bakersfield here. When you start seeing, and if you were looking at this on like a satellite map view, this whole area is nothing but houses. This is just a suburb. This isn't like an industrial park or anything. But if I do search here, you're going to see just this wave of green.
Wow.
Every single one of these green dots here is a trucking company. Now,
Tyler.
Depending on what kind of trucking company they are, it could be everything from, a limousine service to medical transport to, see, now we're too far zoomed out. So let me zoom in a little bit here.
You're good.
There we go. Yeah. And then I start to look for the 3 or 2 or 4 company clusters. And those are the ones that tell me, okay, there was a company here, they got shut down, and now they're reopened again. So let's see. Let's just look up this guy here at random.
You're good.
Okay. Another fun thing, Grumpy, you'll want to do is go through your entire list of inactive companies. Anyone that started around 2020 to 2021 and then immediately shut down in 2022, look up to see whether or not they have PPP loans and whether those loans were forgiven. That's the area of fraud that I've been helping. I talked with this gentleman from the White House Anti-Fraud Task Force last month, and he saw my post, Danielle's post, etc., and he wanted to know more about what we're seeing in trucking. And so I told him everything. I told him all the national security stuff we're seeing, all the military freight fraud stuff we're seeing. And he was like, that stuff is terrifying, yes, but just to let you know, my role in this is going after the fraud, not the national security stuff. But we will definitely put you in contact with people that can help on that end. But one of the recommendations I told him was like, look, find every single address with a PPP loan, lay it on top of the FMCSA database, match the addresses, and find anyone that was active from 2020 to 2022 that is no longer active, and see if they had PPP loans. And I guarantee you're going to find a ton of fraud there. So that's currently what they're looking into right now with the fraud task force. But these kind of clusters exist all over the place in California.
Well, that's why I'm doing the geolocation, right? So it's just slow.
Where's Fresno? I gotta tell Garrett to change the thing on here. Damn it, where the hell's Fresno? Here's Fresno. Yeah, so Fresno is like ground zero in California with chameleon carriers. Like there are so many carriers in this view here, I can't even see them individually until we start zooming in. But again,
can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
I mixed a certain amount of because it's the 5 and the 99.
There we go. So yeah, when you start looking into suburbs and there are just massive clusters like this, most of these companies are only going to have maybe 1 or 2 trucks. But when you start seeing, 2 companies at an address, to me, that's a red flag. It's like, okay, I need to look at these guys, see what companies what. So these guys were formed in 2025. They're still active. These guys are formed.
See, the dog even knows when something's up. The dog even knows. Is that Tyler?
Like, pay attention to me. Yeah, he's like, Dad, pay attention to me. You're talking to somebody that I can't see.
Yeah.
And it's not me.
The other nice thing too with Garrett's tool is we can see a lot of people ask like, okay, we know these carriers are out there. These guys are a problem. Who the hell's giving them all their freight? Like, who are they hauling for?
Right.
And, well, we can figure that out based on the inspection data. When a truck is pulled in for an inspection, the freight that they're hauling is also recorded as well. So we can see this inspection here took place in Texas. It was a walk-around inspection. It's the name of the carrier, and then the insurance, and then where's the shipper? Danson's US LLC. So yeah, we can easily track who they're hauling for and who's giving them their freight.
Well, that's pretty cool.
That is so awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah. there's that Supreme Court decision recently that says the brokers are responsible for accidents, and that's going to really affect the industry.
Billboard attorneys are champing at the bit over that, because there are a lot of cases that were put on pause in court until this ruling was decided, because most people thought it was going to go the other way. They thought that brokers were going to continue having their immunity, and victims' families were going to have no recourse once they finished suing through the carrier and their insurance. But now that they can go after the brokers, we're kind of anticipating a flood of new lawsuits in the wake of this.
The insurance companies will crack down. I mean, one of the reasons I have SUS. Which is like, hey, the Department of Transportation should send letters to these guys. And I also have SUS Insurance, because the insurance people should, like, they're about risk, right? And they should, like, flag the list of people that, you know, are suspicious. And then they'll do the analysis to say, like, we should charge these people more insurance because they're this much more likely to get in an accident. And then pretty soon the rates will go up and they'll be less competitive.
They've been even before this ruling, these carrier networks, they've been trying to, like, figure out a way of still getting freight, because most freight brokers, they won't give you freight. Oh, actually, no legit freight broker will give you freight if you don't have insurance. So one of the things that they've concocted is, instead of going through, like, an insurance provider like Geico, Progressive, etc., they'll set up what's called a risk purchase group, which is basically like a pool of investors with, like, a pile of cash, and if something happens, they just pull from that cash. Well, a lot of these risk purchase groups are going bankrupt because they don't know trucking, and they don't know that these guys are all scam artists, and they're just stealing all the money and getting into wrecks. So I think once all the risk purchase groups start to realize, like, okay, we're just losing money on all this, we're not going to make any money insuring these guys, that scheme is going to go away too. I
have to be clear. I was just kidding about Tony Soprano being alive. Now I know that he's doing insurance fraud.
The problem with it's not Tony Soprano anymore. There's tens of thousands of Tony Sopranos. It's Tony Singh and Tony Gerlukovich and Tony, you name it. It's guys from India, former Soviet Union bloc countries. Like, you just throw a dart in the map, and you've nailed where a lot of these clusters are from.
There's, like, the one guy that figures out how to do it, and then they all just replicate it, right?
Yeah.
Here's the recipe. You, like, farm a trucking company, you do this fraud thing, and then, you know, you farm it out, you go and you find all these people who can't get insurance, and you're like, oh, I can get insurance. One of the addresses I found, there's, like, the guy with the trucking company on the left, and there's the trucking insurance lady on the right, and they're married. And that was just fun.
Yeah. It is so awesome that guys, like, people like you that aren't in the industry are able to, like, get this so quickly, whereas people in the industry have had this happening under their noses for decades. You know, part of why the industry is in the state that it's in is that for the last 20, 30 years, there has been this narrative pushed by lobbyists from the American Trucking Association saying that we have a truck driver shortage in the U.S. And the solution that they cooked up was to import as many truck drivers as they could humanly possible. What they didn't anticipate was that these truck drivers that they imported wouldn't work here temporarily and then go back home. Instead, what they did was they came in, got into trucking, they learned the industry, and then they stuck around and opened up their own companies and then imported the drivers that they wanted. And they've just been undercutting all of the American trucking companies over the last decade and putting a lot of really good multi-generation legacy carriers out of business.
Wow.
Well, and even worse, I mean, what I've been hearing is that, like, you don't get paid that much as a trucker anymore, and so it's better to drive for Uber. You know, and
so, like, I live near the Jersey Shore, and I do Ubering on the weekends now, and I'm making pretty good money.
Rusty Door Dashes. That's how we keep the lights on here at Wild and Wired Media. He's my monthly, weekly sponsor, and every bit of money he makes from door dashing, but he does pretty good. And once you reach certain levels, I don't think Uber Eats, he wanted to try that, but I can't remember. Maybe he couldn't figure out the app or something. Who knows? One app at a time, right? But I'm glad you said that, because it is a great source of income. It's fun to do. You can do it as a family. So great one there. All right, y'all.
Yeah, my recommendation is I've done one food delivery, and that's the last one I would ever do. It doesn't pay much per mile. So I put my trucker hat on when I'm doing like this, when I was like going to Uber. And so with trucking, we say niches make riches. find a specialized niche to go into. What is it that not everybody has that you can exploit? And for me, I have a passenger minivan, so I do Uber XL or XXL, and those pay a lot more per trip. And because we're like entering our busy tourist season, all of my rides are nothing but people going from the bars or restaurants or the beaches, and it's packed full of people. So you get great tips and it's great pay per mile on the.
And they're drunk,
app.
so they're just throwing in money at you.
Well, let me just say, in my husband's defense, I would probably enjoy that. The door dashing. I started a thing called West Virginia X Files Door Dashing Edition or Floor Flashing, whatever. But he wants people to leave him the hell alone. He sells paint all day. He's talking to people all day. He says, I don't even know how he would
that
be
is one
doing
downside.
that.
If you're not a people
He's
person,
not
the
a
last thing
people
you
person.
want, you don't want a car full of drunk people at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
But he's not. He is, but he's not. I don't know how that even makes sense, but I have to force him, baby, please do this. He's like, no.
Yeah. So what we're seeing right now in trucking is, when Sean Duffy was appointed by Trump, a lot of us were like, who the hell is Sean Duffy? Then we find out, oh, he's from like MTV, Road Rules, and Fox News. So a lot of us were like super skeptical of this guy initially. But through various back channel efforts, through groups like American Truckers United, they've been able to get in his ear and say a lot of the problems that the industry has been seeing. And to Sean Duffy's credit, he took all of our concerns very seriously. And so that's why we had the passing of the English language proficiency ruling. So up until 2017, or even past 2017, it's always been the law of the land since the 30s that you had to speak, read, and write in English in order to have a commercial driver's license in the U.S. And the consequences of that is if you were a truck driver, you got pulled over and you couldn't speak English, you were placed out of service. In 2017, under the Obama administration, that out of service enforcement was waived. They got rid of it. You could still get pulled over, you could still get cited, but nothing happened to you. It was basically a speeding ticket. And even when Trump was in his first term, they didn't change that rule. Second term came around. They said, okay, we're gonna get serious and look into this. Then they were like, okay, why do we have so many truck drivers in the country that can't speak English? Well, a lot of it is because they're not from the country. So how did they get here? And what they came to find out was that in 2021, they launched this new program called the ELDT, Entry Level Driver Training Program, where if you wanted to be a trucking school in the U.S., all you had to do was tell the government, hey, I'm a CDL school. And the government would go, oh, okay, have fun. They did not do any background checks. You did not have to prove that you knew anything about the entire, we call it the Green Book. It's all 670 something pages of every single, we call it the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations. You didn't need to prove any of that. You just told the government, I'm a CDL school. They would say, okay, so you would bring guys in, they pay you, you give them a certificate of completion. They take that certificate to the DMV, boom, they have a CDL. So that's why we're seeing so many of these guys that can't drive, can't speak English, crashing and wrecking all the time.
There was one of the ones I found.
Grumpy, 1 second. Let me jump in here real quick just for 1 second. Hold that thought. So I'm glad you brought up the wrecking and the crashing, because I have been seeing a lot of content where this is kind of where people were really starting to take a look at how do we have so many truck drivers that are certified to do all this that can't even speak, read, or write English. And do you think the number of crashes have increased, say, in the past decade? Like, how long has this been going on? Grumpy, jump in, and then whatever order you want to go in. That's just my question. How long has this been going on? When did it start increasing? Has it increased with technology and social media? Like, what's really going on here?
Well, so I got in the industry in 2007, and the way that the pipeline worked back then was they were trying to get guys from the Iraq and Afghanistan war. So through the GI Bill, the government would pay for your CDL training, and then boom, you're in a truck and moving down the road. I wasn't a vet, so I didn't serve, so I didn't get that. I had to pay. I didn't pay out of pocket. The company I was hired with paid for my CDL school, and then I had to work for them for 18 months to pay it off. That is a very, very common entry into the industry. What happened with these guys is, most people don't realize is like most of the guys that get into these kind of wrecks, or the drivers that are hauling for these companies, they themselves are victims of human trafficking. If I'm a 20-something-year-old kid from India and I'm scrolling social media all day, I am just inundated on Instagram all day long with ads saying, hey, look at all this money. I got cars, I got girls, I got the big house, everything in America. Come get over here. So they'll pay a human trafficker or travel agent, as they call them, to smuggle them into South America. They hoof it on foot through the Darien Gap into Mexico and then across the U.S. border. Now, until Trump 2, what the scheme was is as soon as they hit U.S. soil, a lawyer from an NGO would file an asylum claim for them, and then they go work at their cousins or their brother's trucking company, and then they were paid for their CDL school and stuff. So they got to pay for the human trafficker, they got to pay for the CDL school they went to, and they're most likely paying for the truck that they're in too. Part of the way that these trucking companies can operate with such higher margins than legit American companies is if I'm a U.S. company and I'm hiring a driver, it's my employee with my truck driving and using up my fuel everything's a cost. So I got to book freight to make a profit on that. It's the complete opposite relationship with these other carriers. They contract with that driver. So they charge them for the truck, they charge them for the insurance, they charge them for the fuel, and they're making 14 to 15% margins versus most trucking companies is 3%, if that.
That's the whorehouse model. The house gets half.
Yeah. So part of the reason, when you see like these protests in like Indiana, California, when these states start issuing like harsher rules and crackdowns on CDL issuances, the reason why you're seeing some of these guys like all up in arms is because they owe so much money to everybody, and they have no other recourse. Like these guys, they're not going to make as much money as they are driving for Uber as they are driving trucks.
Right.
And what they're making driving trucks isn't that much either.
So one of the places I found that had a bunch of trucking firms, and it was like one of these storefronts in a strip mall, and they did, at the very top above the door it says DMV, and they talk about how they'll do your truck paperwork and get your truck registration, and then the Chinese said champion traffic violation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it was a traffic school. So they find people who have already violated a traffic law, run them through their traffic school to clear their record, and then give them a CDL and get their truck registration set up so that they can be a trucker. That's like, let's go recruit the bad drivers.
Yeah.
I'll give you the address after this. I'll DM it to you.
Before like this whole immigration thing, there were other pipelines. So everyone always complains to us like, oh, you guys are just being too hard on the immigrants. Like, what are you going to do once the immigrant thing is done? Like, the immigrant is like just half the story, because even setting the immigration issue aside, states like Texas, the way that they would get a lot of their truck drivers was through their unemployment programs. So you would have like an African American woman, like a mother of 7. She'd go to the unemployment office to file for unemployment, and they would send her straight to trucking school. It's like, this woman has kids at home. She doesn't have any business being on the road for weeks or months at a time.
I bet she takes the kids with her somehow. Oh.
No. I get so mad when I see like Instagram reels of like people with like their babies like in the back of a semi. It's different if they're like young teenagers or like older kids and they want to go on the road with their dad for a couple of days. You do not want to have a baby in a car seat in the back of a semi. It is a very dangerous job. Like over 5,000 people a year are killed in accidents involving semi trucks. So yeah, it's exactly why you don't see like people taking their kids to like working in the salt mines or the metal forge.
So let's pivot back to the DOT tool that you were showing us. We've gotten a lot of great insight on that. So what is the ultimate goal for this? Because look, Grumpy plays around a lot, and anytime he says, hey, let's do a live stream about this, or let's talk about this, he writes great articles. You guys, please, y'all, check him out on X platform at Grumpier Tech Bro is his handle. The title is Grumpier because he's a little bit grumpier. He's back from his suspension. We talked a little bit about the boost tool. We also talked about the mail-in ballots, dun, 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 dun. And now we're talking about the DOT tool, where Mr. Justin Martin has been amazing today. I'm loving this conversation. Y'all made it easy for me to just sit back and let y'all take the reins. So as long as y'all want to go, I'm here to let you go. So Grumpy, take off. Y'all keep the conversation going. I'll be right back. I got to reset some things, and I know y'all can keep the conversation going.
Okay, so I'm going to go back, put my screen on.
Got you. Hold on one second.
Yeah, put my screen up. Yeah, and I'll go over the tool.
Let me find it. Where'd it go? Here it is. Wait, I
did
that too fast. I'm sorry. Wait, where? How come? Oh, I have to remove one, I think. Wait, hold on. Let me see what's going on. I'm struggling today. Boom. Okay,
there we go.
good?
Okay,
Yeah.
you got the tunnel. Okay, so this is McColl Street Road in McAllen, Texas. And we look at the carriers, and I see, okay, Beto's Trucking, say DCV, which is basically Spanish for incorporated or LLC or something like that. This is a whole bunch of people kind of grouping. This is obviously a front for a bunch of Hispanic trucking firms. You know, you were saying about being against the immigrants, and one of my libtard friends was saying, are you just trying to get Democrats in trouble? And I said, you know, the Department of Transportation does not have a party affiliation in their data. And he said, oh, okay. So let's go look at their address.
Yeah, I can't stand it when people try to make this like a partisan issue, because this stuff has been happening under every administration going back to Jimmy Carter. You know, it's as soon as the industry was deregulated, the floodgates were opened, and here we are today.
Yeah, and so here's the Google Maps view. We got the Bridgepoint Insurance Agency and Permit Center, and this guy, if I look closely, it says permits, bonds, title transfers, plate renewals, and truck and auto insurance. So this is like a service doing the thing for a bunch of Mexican trucking firms, and they're right next to a FedEx thing, so they can ship quickly, and they're quick in and out. So this is
wow, 43 companies at that address.
324 Department of Transportation rows. Yeah, there's 160 active carriers at that address. And then see, the other thing I noticed, see this thing that says the phone number? This is the phone number for the trucking company. And I discovered that if I grouped the carriers, like these two carriers are sharing the same phone number. So if I called this phone number, you know, they would say, you'd have to say who you wanted to talk to. And that just kind of leaked out of the data for me. So this is front for several Mexican trucking firms, which doesn't mean anything, but that's probably suspicious DOT, and it goes back. And this is, see, I just ground through that, and that's how I got to like 73 different things. And now it says that I've marked 41 suspicious, and so on. Is there one of these you want to look at, if you can see it?
So I have the address pulled up on Garrett's tool. Part of it's, you know, one thing for like guys like you to like be able to instantly see this kind of data. But I told Garrett, I said, I want something visual. Like, not everybody has like the instant.
I like that.
Like, they can't just look at a wall of numbers on a spreadsheet and like make the connection. So I said, build some kind of visualizer tool in this thing. And he begrudgingly did it. And he did it in like a day and a half. I was like, oh man, we should have had this in here like months before this. But yeah, this is fantastic. So it just makes it a lot easier to make the connection. So you can see cpointins.com.
Let me pull that up bigger so I can look at it. I muted Grumpy out for just a second because it kills me on editing in the back end. I can clean up the sound, but only to a certain degree. So I see what you got going on there. What were you looking for? This is amazing. I like that it's in 3D style. And I want to say that when the Doge Bros were talking about, you know, putting things together, this is kind of something they had in mind. I might have heard it in another space. I don't know, but that is amazing. So when you put the information in, it pulls up like that sphere thing, like some Tony Stark stuff.
Yeah, I want to see what their website is, if it's legit or not. Yeah, it's not even an active website.
Can you hear me, Grumpy?
That's annoying.
Okay, good. I'm bringing you back up. Oh wait, I never took you down.
Let me just pull up one of these carriers here at random. Let's see. No inspections, no inspections, no inspections, Nothing. Yeah, most of these are inactive. So yeah, 2017, 2022, 2016, 2017. So a lot of that too, it just could be, an office headquarters somewhere just gets passed around from one company to another. It's the red flags are when you see multiple active carriers at one address. So in fact,
so one of the things my tool does is it groups all those, and then it groups all the active and inactives, and it hides the inactive.
Yeah, in fact, these are okay. These are cross-border carriers. So their physical address will be registered in Mexico, but their mailing address will be at this place in Texas. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here. These are all.
Pull it back up. There you go.
Yeah, so when you look at their physical address, so within their filing, they'll have a physical address and a mailing address. So if there are carriers that are doing that cross-border freight, so they're based in Mexico, but they take freight into Texas or vice versa, that's where you start seeing these two addresses. But it looks like most of these guys are all out of business now, and so that's why there are so many carriers registered at this address here, is because they handle all the cross-border freight. Now, what you would want to see are carriers that are active. Let me see if I can just find one that's active. Give me one active one.
One active one. Come on. I'm still working with these stupid layouts on StreamYard. I'll probably have to leave for just a second. So give me 1 second.
I can give you one from my tool.
Yeah, not a single one of these is active.
All right, let's pull Grumpy's back up. Oh, did you bring it up?
One might be. Let's see if Genlogs will let me.
All right, I'm going to pull you down and pull Grumpy's back up for a second. I'm going to leave the studio. Grumpy, talk about your stuff, and then I'll bring yours up, Mr. Martin, when you find it. I'll be right back. These layouts, I've got to fix this issue because this is why I don't do live streams, y'all, because I'm a terrible screen layer outer, figure out or whatever. So I'm so grateful y'all are patient with me. Thank you for being patient with me. See, I done messed it up again. So this will be on full screen. I'll be right back, y'all. Go ahead, Grumpy. Take the wheel.
Okay, I'm just going to my tool. So Betos Trucking. I don't know how you're searching. I can give you the dot number if you want. They have 190 trucks at that McAllen, Texas address. Also, Rocio Carina. Can you hear me, Justin?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get my log into Genlogs here. There we go.
Dang, I think I got stuff figured out. Okay, whose screen needs to be up where? I just came back in. Forgive me. Is it you, Grumpy, or Justin?
I think Justin is looking at stuff in his tool.
Okay.
So another fun tool we have here is it's called Genlogs. So, and of course these guys aren't active. What you would typically see is like if you find a trucking company that is active. So let's do one here that I know was at one point one of our favorite chameleon carriers called Tutash.
Tutash has a ring to it.
Well, there was a wreck in Indiana back in February involving a carrier called Tutash Express. And Tutash was part of this large chameleon carrier cluster that was originally called Sam Express. But over time, they had fractured into 3 or 4 different companies. So you have Tutash Express, AJ Partners, and where's the other one? KG Line Group Incorporated. And what you can do is when you start seeing this many trucks in common with this many carriers, you know, like, okay, these trucks are all operating under these companies simultaneously. And then using a tool like Genlogs, we can very easily see when and where the trucks were operating. So these guys have, fortunately, they've not been very active. They might pop up once in a while because one of their trucks is being towed around to like an auction somewhere. But if you zoom back out to a year, you can see exactly where these guys are operating, and they were all over the place. Now, what brokers are supposed to be doing is looking up these carriers' profiles and seeing, you know, signs of fraud and their what's called their ISS score. So every carrier has their own ISS score from the federal government, and it's basically saying like, what are the chances of you getting inspected by FMCSA investigators? Like, are the guys with badges going to show up at your house and ask to see all the paperwork involved with your company? And the higher the number, the higher the likelihood of you getting a inspection or an audit from the FMCSA.
So looking at this right here, would this person likely get an audit?
Well, these guys already have, but it was too late. 5 people were already killed in Indiana from one of their drivers.
Wow.
It was a guy from Uzbekistan. And so here's how their scheme operated. The driver, he was brought into the country, and he was living out of an apartment in Pennsylvania, and they made him form an LLC. And so the company contracted out to that LLC. They don't hire this driver as an employee. They contract with the LLC, thinking that it's going to provide them as like a layer of protection. It doesn't. Not always.
Right.
But they do that because if that driver is involved in a fatal wreck, they can just kind of make it go away or change the name of the company. And that's how they've been operating for years. But because this wreck was like so horrific and made such a big stink on social media, Sean Duff and the Libs of TikTok account shared this video that we'd all been sharing of one of their drivers swapping the sign on the side of the truck back in November. And Sean
Do you want
Duffy
me to look it up real quick while you're telling the story?
Yeah, if you go to Sean Duffy's account and you just type in like the side eyes emoji.
Is it Sean SHA or SEAN?
Sec Duffy, I think, is his handle.
Sec Duffy, yes.
Wait, say it. Sec Duffy.
SEC Duffy, Secretary Duffy.
Oh, Sec Duffy. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm slow.
But yeah, so Sean.
Well,
Sean
his
Duffy
first name is Sean.
Yeah, Sean Duffy. He himself like shared that video and put like little side eyes emojis. Like I was like, okay, we're looking into this. They didn't look into shit, and these guys killed somebody. Five people a couple of months later. And so I have a feeling that was like a huge embarrassment for that administration. And so the hammer came down on these guys, and they had feds crawling all up their butts for months. This case is still ongoing. I don't know if the owners are still in the country. A lot of times, so what's horrific for these victims and why this is Supreme Court case was so important is that when a lot of these carriers are involved in these fatal wrecks, the owners just flee the country. They have no justice coming to those victims whatsoever. The company itself will just declare bankruptcy. So now there's no money, and the broker was never liable for giving that carrier the freight. That is not the case going forward. There are going to be lots and lots of cases where, very easily you can just look up a carrier, see that they had a very, very poor safety score. And if they were given freight and they get into a fatal wreck, whoever gave them that freight should be,
held
stripped
liable
of every dollar that they have.
Yeah, because money
and
talks and bullshit walks, right? I mean, that's just it, right? And insurance companies are very pragmatic. They're just accountants. Insurance is just like the roulette wheel, right? There's the green spots, and that's how they make their money. They don't care if there's good drivers. They don't care if there's bad drivers. They're like, we're going to take the big universe of drivers, and we're going to get our true spots in the roulette wheel, and we make money no matter what.
The insurance companies are not blameless in this whatsoever at all. Like Geico, please don't sue me for this, but they undercut everybody to get into the industry. They were not insuring commercial trucks ever until a couple of years ago. But they made it very cheap for anyone to get an insurance policy from Geico to try and get some market share. And they gave so many bad carriers insurance policies. What I like to do is anytime I'm on road trips, I'll go on the road and I'll just start snapping pictures of semis and run them through search carriers. And if I find that it is a chameleon carrier, and I look up their insurance company and it's Geico, I'm immediately emailing somebody from Geico saying, hey, look at this. They don't care. They don't respond to my emails. They don't look at anything. But these carriers, when they get into a wreck, the insurance companies are going to go, why didn't we notice it?
Yeah, where was the risk analysis? So I think it's a great idea. I was excited when Grumpy said, oh, I've got Super Trucker is going to come on. And I was like, so I'm definitely hoping to see more future collaborations with regards to this. All this information, I got to say, is blowing my mind. I just never realized that the corruption was at the level that it's at until I met people like Grumpier Tech Bro. Dang. Wow.
Yeah, like I said, there are rabbit holes upon rabbit holes to fall down in this. Back in January this year, this gentleman from New York Post reached out to Danielle. She was busy, so he reached out to me because Danielle was busy. And he said, hey, I'm working on this article about immigration and trucking. What can you tell me? And I was like, what do you want to know? And we talked on the phone for like a good 2 hours. Adam Coleman is his name. And it has been awesome watching Adam dig into trucking, find everything he could. And he's gone from just being like a dad who like writes for the New York Post to now he's like making a documentary film on the industry. And he actually just interviewed Sean Duffy recently for the documentary. So it's been really cool watching him just like find everything he can. And that's basically been my role for like the last 2 years. Is like a journalist, like something will happen in trucking. A journalist will reach out to me and they say, what do we need to know? And I'll just give them like some brief talking points. And they're like, wait, really? It's that crazy? And I'm like, no. That is like 1% of like what we're looking into. So yeah, Sec Duffy. SEC
I've got
Duffy.
it. Oh, is it already up on the screen? It already brought it up there. Yeah, I had him up here, and then I was like, well, let me just do a share screen and maybe y'all can, and then I want to show y'all's, of course, X stuff. These layouts are getting the better of me today. Let me tell you, we're going to fight. I'm going to fight in the yard. All right, y'all. So check this out. So this is the Secretary Duffy. This is the one that he said he was looking into. Do you know when the date of the post was? Was it recent?
This would have been back in December. Are you on a Mac or a Windows?
Windows.
I don't know how you look up emojis.
No. Don't worry about it. I'll put it on the back end of editing because I'm gonna look. Grumpy knows me. I repurpose stuff, and so I do intend to make a video that will be uploaded on my YouTube channel. So I'll be chopping this up as soon as I can get this stupid. I have to leave the studio again. Hold on, let me bring somebody up here. Boom, there's you. So Super Trucker, you're behind Grumpy for right this second. Let me dip out and dip back in. I'm struggling so bad here. I don't know why this is doing this. It's so annoying. And
here it is.
All right, Grumpy.
If you want to, I'll throw it up on mine. If you want to show it on mine.
Yeah, that'll work. And then when I come back in, I'll pick up your share screen. And are we going to be using the other share screens? I'm going to kick that one. Whoa.
Well, we're going to use mine in a minute. And I do want to at some point show my MRI just because it's fun.
Let's do that. Let's do that right now because I actually have it up right. I had just clicked on it. I'm so glad you said something about that. So you do that, and then I'm going to go straighten myself out here in this stupid yard if I could ever figure it out. I'm going to put it full screen. So go ahead and talk about that. I'll be right back, y'all.
Okay. Ooh, so this is kind of a self-portrait. It's after and before. So this is from 2023. So this is why I'm currently like poking around in data and fighting corruption using my mad programming skills. So May 31st, 2023, I get back from Best Buy because my phone had died and I was trying to get the battery replaced and so on. So, and my phone gets stolen. And then my wife asked me to clean the bathtub because she just washed the dogs because she was concerned that the dogs had fleas. And since she'd washed the dogs, that seemed fair that I would do the bathtub. So I go in there and I fall and I hit my head and I knock myself out. And there's blood all over the bathroom and stuff. So my wife goes out, can't get me up because I'm knocked unconscious. And she goes out in the front yard and yells and screams. And the paramedics come, find me unconscious, pick me up, carry me off to the hospital. And my wife thinks I'm dead. And I wake up and they're loading me onto the helicopter. And they're like, hello, we did a CAT scan. You have a giant brain tumor. We're shipping you to Portland, Oregon for the Oregon Health and Science University to get it removed. So that night they put a garage door in my head. And then on June 3rd, they take the tumor out. And then after the picture there is from 3 months later where they check to make sure the tumor is gone. Now, it was a benign meningioma, which is doctor speak for you don't have cancer and it's in the wrap of your brain, not the brain. So they basically just had to pop it out like a big weird zit of tumor. And then I've been recovering ever since. and I'm currently in disability because the reality is I start out way smarter than average, and then it goes downhill all day long until by the end of the day, I'm like, I can't really understand things that are written. And that's just my life, right?
That's awful.
It is awful, but on the other hand, I'm happier now than I was when I was a big Silicon Valley mucky muck. So, God gives you what you need, not what you want. And so when I got out of the hospital, I spent 40 days in the hospital after they took the tumor out, and craziness with that, and I was hallucinating and things like that. And then my wife, in the meantime, she had probably had a stroke while I was gone. And so on June 5th, which was 2 days after they took the tumor out and told my wife that I was alive, they came and got her, and they took her to the local memory care, not memory care, but mental asylum place. And as they're driving away, her phone rings, and the sheriff has the presence of mind to unlock her phone and hand it to my neighbor, who then calls my sister-in-law. So my sister-in-law comes up and gets my wife and takes her back to Los Angeles. So one of the reasons I had to spend 40 days in the hospital is they could kind of release me, but I didn't have anywhere wanted to take care of me. So they're like, well, we'll just keep you here, which was driving me stir crazy. I mean, I'm both hallucinating and I'm alarmed to the bed, so I have to ask permission to pee, and yeah. And if you ever know anybody in the hospital and they're there for a long time, bring them sweatpants, because spending 40 days wearing those gowns really sucked. So I have this whole elaborate plan that I wrote down of how to escape the hospital, because I was convinced I was dead and I was in the afterlife, and I was playing this video game that was called Escape the Hospital. And they finally decided to let me go because I convinced them, look, I live in a single-story house. I can order food delivered. I'll be fine. And at first they didn't want to, but then my Amazon delivery showed up, because I figured out, I remembered the numbers from the bottom of my checks. And so I was able to pay for clothes and things. And I was actually trying to buy a Nintendo Switch, because I was going stir crazy in the hospital. And they first confiscated all that. And then I complained to every nurse that shift, I'm really pissed that you took my Amazon stuff. I was just trying to be less miserable here.
Well, one day you're going to have to provide us that escape route map. I mean, I really want, you're good about, remember the map you showed me with when you were programming your, what is it called? A Roomba? Those things that, how do you keep your dogs from getting that thing is what I want to know. How do you keep your dogs? I have a Belgian Malinois, so that dog would definitely rip up any. You should see him after
a Belgian Malinois would do that. Yeah, I mean, because you got to feed them terrorists, right? You got to get terrorist chow at the
Tyler
would just
herd Tyler will just herd the vacuum cleaner. Has he tried to herd it?
They're like they're like a little weirded out by the vacuum cleaner. It comes up and it kind of bumps in them, and they're like, ah, and then they back away and stuff like that.
And I tell them, get it voice activated. It can say, "Excuse me, Tyler."
Mine's a Maltese mix, and he's more terrified of the vacuum than the vacuum is of him.
I love it. And was that your cat? We have a little puppy around here.
Yeah, sorry. While he was talking about his poor hospital stay, my cat got his claw stuck in the back of my shirt, and I'm like, get off me.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Wow. So I knew what you meant about make sure if you know anybody who's staying in the hospital for any extended period of time, or if you know yourself are going in the hospital, yes, what Grumpy said, make sure you take stuff with you for the stay. I took care of my father. He spent the last 30 days of his life in the MD Anderson in Houston, Texas. And so I stayed with him the whole time. And we made sure his pillows were fluffed and all of that. So who's that thing right there?
Is Gandalf.
Gandalf, I like that name.
Gandalf the Grey.
Gandalf the Grey.
He's getting stir crazy because I have my door shut, but my nephew is here downstairs, and he doesn't know that I'm keeping him trapped in the room for his own benefit.
We're pretty loosey-goosey on the live stream because I always find time to, chop it up and make videos out of it. But yeah, we've been going for over an hour. I always like to honor people's time, and like I said, I'll go as long as y'all want to go. I'm here for the. Y'all are willing to come on here, take your time, explain some things to, me, to other people, so that we have a greater understanding of what actually is going on. And that when you think that there's nothing that you can do, you just heard Grumpy's story, with the brain tumor. Let me bring it back up real quick. I want to show it. You saw that, and look at him now. So June 2nd was from 2023, right?
Yeah, June 2nd, 2023. Yeah.
And then
the tumor is taken out June 3rd of 2023.
You're coming up on you just celebrated no, wait, what's today? The 1st, right? What's today's date,
a little
y'all?
over. July 1st. July 1st, yeah.
Yes, July 1st. So tomorrow is the anniversary where you got this sucker taken out. And then September 21st is what year again? This year?
Those are both 2023. Yeah. So one is the day before I got the tumor taken out in 2023, and September 21st is 3 months later. And if you look, there's like in the left front part, there's like a little void there, and in the center, there's like a little void of the where my brain is dark. Yeah, that's where my brain hasn't grown back or unsquished back. My brain was squished in there.
Could be scar tissue too, couldn't it?
I don't know.
You got a lot of grooves in your brain there, Grumpy. So, Super Trucker, how much more time you got with us? I want to make sure we cover important things. And let me do the share screen. Or did you say you brought up the X?
Yeah, I have that post from Duffy. Yeah, I got time.
We go. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's what I like to hear, to keep it going.
This was from December 4th.
Wait, let me pull this down one moment. Give me time. Give me time. Oh, give me time.
So this is one of the... This is a driver from TikTok, and he's explaining this truck that he recorded. One of their drivers was swapping out the sign. So the sign says KG Line Group Incorporated. He's going to peel it off.
Oh, my gosh.
And underneath it, you can see Tutash. And I think I don't know if he replaces that or if he just leaves that up there. But that's very common with these guys. Any truck that you see on the road that has like a taped-on sign or a magnetic sign, not to say that like every single company is doing that, but a lot of every company that does do that, that's what they're using, is these magnetic signs. What I like to do is if I see a truck in a parking lot, I'll peel that sign back and see what's underneath it and run both companies to see if they're related or not. That was something
what I would do is I'm not as nice as you. I would just steal the sign.
When Adam
That's stealing.
When Adam released his article for the New York Post, and Sean Duffy himself even reshared it, Adam came back to me and he's like, I want to do a Nick Shirley-esque documentary with you on chameleon carriers out here in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or wherever. He says, where should we go? And I said, give me a couple of days. So I looked around and found a couple clusters, and I said, we can either do North Jersey or Northeast Philadelphia. And so we decided we'll meet in the middle. I'm in South Jersey. So he met at my house. We drove to Philly, and we spent a day out there just going to random apartment buildings, addresses, etc., and recording everything we could. When we were going from one address to another, we drove past the post office's network distribution center where I used to work out of when I was at the post office. I said, "Ooh, let's go swing in there." And so we go into the truck parking lot, and there were a couple of truck cabs parked there for the day, and there were a couple of chameleon carriers there. That's the other thing too. People don't realize a lot of the postal service highway network is completely overrun with these chameleon carriers. Starting in 2020, when I was at the post office, they went away with direct contract freight. What they used to do is they would have lanes that all the mail moved on, and they would just put those lanes up for bid every couple of years, and then carriers could bid on those lanes. Instead, what they do now is they just take whatever lanes exist and they send them off to brokers, freight brokers, and then those brokers will find carriers at random to haul mail on those lanes. And in no time flat, those lanes were completely taken over by these chameleon carriers because they're super cheap, and the brokers are incentivized to book the cheapest carrier possible, regardless of their safety score. And so you fast forward 2 or 3 years after that, all of the American companies that were hauling mail on those lanes, they're all out of business now. And so even if the Postal Service wanted to boot those guys out of their network tomorrow, there's no one in the network to replace them. So that's what the Postal Service is like struggling
Can I
with right
share a postal service story since we're talking about this happened today, y'all. This
now?
has nothing to do with truck. It might have something to do with trucking. I don't know. So we live in a very rural area. So, our mail carrier does not drive like the standard mail truck. In fact, I've had conversations. So basically they contract out because we're an unincorporated city. So they contract out to the USPS, the postal service, and the sellers of this home, they had heavy complaints about the mail carrier, which she said it was a girl. We have a guy now. But he made a statement about his bald tires, and I was like, "Well, wait a minute. Aren't you in a contract or something? Don't you make enough money? You use that for work? Don't you get some kind of per diem to keep those tires up?" So look, I don't know what happened. So we get our mail today. My daughter, our 9-year-old, her birthday was just recently. So we get this. I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to put me on big screen for right now, 1 second, so y'all can see this. So it came in this, right? We care about your mail. It came in this. And Rosie comes in and she says, "Mama, I wonder," because this is from Aunt Ibis. She said, "I wonder if something was taped at the top. Aunt Ibis always sends me money, whatever." And I was like, I don't know, maybe they just taped it back together. There was $25 in that card. Now they do say do not mail cash. So, they took the money and then put it in a nice little package and at least gave the card. So I don't know what happened, but it's a little sus. So now we're going to file a little report, even though nobody will read it and nobody will care. We're going to do it anyway. Just keep doing it. But I mean, they said they're sorry that our mail got damaged and blah, blah, blah. I was going to do a video on it. And I said, well, if I could just squeeze this footage in here, then I could just clip it out later and that video will be easy to do. But y'all, what?
I can tell you what happened. So
please do.
You broke up a little bit. You said there was cash taped to the inside of the card, but the cash still arrived, right? Or was the cash
missing? It was the cash was gone, and the card was in here, and
you need to file find your when you look at the letter where the postal stamp is. There will be another stamp on top of that called a cancellation stamp. That'll tell you where that letter was sorted. Contact that sorting facility and ask for either the plant manager or whoever's in charge of the DPS machines there.
Here's something interesting. Wait, now that you made me pause to look at it, there's no stamping of any kind.
How about on the back of the envelope?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then it arrived in this bag.
Is there an address on that envelope to send it to you guys?
Yes.
Ooh, yes. Okay. Yeah, that's very suspicious.
That's super sus. I'm glad you said to look there because I would have never thought for the, what do they call that? That stampy rolly thing that goes.
Yeah, it's a cancellation. So when you put a postage stamp on a letter, that stamp has to get canceled so it doesn't get reused over and over and over again.
Right.
And the cancellation stamp on that will say what sorting facility canceled that postage. So your options are contact your local postmaster and say exactly what happened. Because here's the thing: when those letters are going through they're called DPS machines. They're these ancient piece of crap letter sorters that constantly break down, and the fact that any of it gets moved at all is a miracle. But things do happen. Like if it's a irregularly shaped envelope or a bulky envelope, they will go through the machines and get ripped up, and unfortunately accidents do happen. Typically when I would see bags like that, it would be somebody mailed perfume or something through the mail, and then it leaked and got everywhere, and so they just sealed it up to keep it from stinking up the place.
So from which end do they put these stamps and all of that? Because that would tell me a lot too. So if they roll that stamp, because I know it came from Charlotte, North Carolina, I will tell you that. And it landed here in Foster, West Virginia, which is right outside of Charleston. So I think it's usually when it gets to its destination, it gets that rolly stamp. Or because it usually says Charleston, the last place.
When it's arriving at the facility, they go through the sorting machines, and that's where it's canceled. It goes through a whole section of the plant called cancellation, and then.
So this probably happened in Charlotte.
So if a letter is sent from Charlotte and being delivered to Charlotte. It goes in one end of the plant through the machines and out and then on the truck through the following night. If it's going to a different network, it'll be sorted and then put on an APC, an all-purpose container, and then put on a truck that's going closer to that network, where then it's sorted again and then dispatched out the following morning.
Got it. That is so wild. That is so wild.
Yeah, so I don't think it was your letter carrier that stole it, because
I don't think it
was. They do stings. Postmasters will, like, not all routes, but they'll put money inside of mailboxes, and then they bait the letter carriers, because they'll come back and if the money's gone, or they'll sit there with a camera and record these guys. There's a subreddit for the Postal Service where guys will take pictures on their routes of like money inside mailboxes, and they'll just say, "Not today, postmaster," because they know that they're being watched.
Look, let me tell you. So Aunt Ibis, if you are watching this, Abby, any of y'all, did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear? Y'all need to file a report, and we'll file one too. So it's definitely, as soon as it gets to the sorting center, that's where this thing. I was like, oh well, this happened in Charlotte. There's no way it happened in West by God, Virginia.
File reports on both ends, because I promise you, whoever was stupid enough to actually like steal the money from here, it's not going to be the first time they do it, and they're probably not going to get caught this time. But now that they know that there is something to look for, the postal inspectors will have eyes on whichever end of the plant is doing it, and they're going to catch them, and they're going to let them get away. Here's the heartbreaking thing: they don't catch them once and then they're done. They let them do it a couple of times, and they build up a case, and they just slam them, and they say, "You're going away for a really," because that's what they want. They want the big prosecutions.
When they catch them, I'm going to attach my email address and tell them to send me all the footage, because I'm going to do a follow-up update on this. Hold on, Grumpy's back with us. Let me pull him up here real quick. So y'all, I mean, this is super obvious. This is not a card for an adult, right? This is a kid's card. So they stole money from a kid.
Yeah,
shame on you. I just want to say shame on you. So thank you for allowing me to get that story in there. That's going to be great. So hopefully I'll keep y'all updated too, because I'm going to do a video on the theft, and then we're going to be doing some investigative journalism. I'm going to try my hand at investigative journalism.
It is really, because they're federal employees, it is really hard to fire a postal worker unless they mess with the mail. That is one of the easiest, like, get your butt out the door violations you could possibly think of. And why people are stupid enough to mess with the mail, I have no idea. They're always caught. It might not be immediately or within like a year, but you're gonna get caught eventually. And
they're now filming themselves, you guys. They're now filming themselves committing crimes, making TikTok videos about it. And you're absolutely right. But anyway, that's all I had on that. Y'all continue on.
Well, I think part of the problem why they have such an issue with these guys is, so I worked in transportation at the post office. I was a truck driver. We have zero turnover. Like, when I quit the post office, the only reason I quit the post office is I got hired at a company called Freight Waves to run social media for them, and it was a work from home job. And I was like, oh sweet. And I had a 2-year-old at the time, so it was very worth it to me. But 99% of the guys, when they're hired at the post office as a truck driver, they're there till the day they retire or die, or both. And it's the opposite with the letter carriers, because there's no barrier to entry and anyone with a pulse can apply to be a letter carrier. They have this like constant churn of new people coming in. If you get hired and you work there long enough and you get converted to a regular employee, now you're guaranteed 40 hours a week, and you get your benefits and all that stuff. But because they don't give any of those guarantees to new people, nobody sticks around long enough to make it regular. So I think that's why they're having such a huge issue with like theft like this, unfortunately, is because they don't take care of like new people well enough to incentivize them to stick around.
Yeah, story about my letter carrier is the one carrier used to be able to back the truck up my driveway and drop off the packages, but we got a new one and she didn't know how to back up the truck. And so she was making me go to the post office to get my package. So now I have like a little plastic bin under my mailbox so that they can just dump it in there. But that's actually kind of annoying now. And I think the lady who couldn't back up the mail truck is gone now, but I've left the plastic thing.
when you're hired as was this in the LLVs or like a cargo van? What were they driving?
It was one of the new ones with the big giant windows in the front.
Okay. Yeah. So when you're hired on as a carrier and you're driving one of those vehicles, you got to go through like a whole driving course. And if you can't pass that course, they don't hire you. So I'm honestly shocked they had someone who couldn't back up that thing.
Well, something. See, I used to when I was in college, this long driveway to get into the parking lot, and the best way to get out was to back all the way up onto the street and then go forward. And so I learned that, like, if I drive to the left side of my car, I know that the right side will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I could do that at speed. I could just be like, oh, and go zooming down the driveway and be out, right? But people don't know that, and they go,
oh yeah, you would have made it a great postal employee, because the network I worked out of was Philadelphia, and it's an old city, and we have really tight docks in some spots that we have to get into, and those are always the lanes that nobody wanted to work on. So those are the lanes that had weekends off. And my last route at the post office was going into Center City, Philadelphia, downtown, and going underground to this old post office facility, and you had a blind side back into a dock with a 38-foot trailer. And everybody hated going down there. But what was nice with all these routes is, like, yeah, they're a pain the first like couple times you go there, but once you know the trick of like what you need to do to get in there, you can do it in your sleep. And so
watch the driver's side. Roll down your window, watch the driver's side. Yep, you're good to go.
Y'all just need to do a training course. Everybody's about these training courses. Y'all get out there and say that, and especially, can you imagine here in West Virginia, Rusty goes door dashing. We saw a driveway, literally, it ended. And completely, it looked like if they would have just built like a bridge from that driveway across the front yard to the roof of the house, because the roof was built down. I can't even describe it. I don't even know if you can get a visual in your head. I think I did a video on it a long time ago, but I was like, this is insanity. It literally looked like you were going to tip off the edge, and that was their driveway. I don't even know how they got to their house. I would just get a slide into my front
some
door.
people you just get used to it. The ones I always feel the worst about is like 45 degree angle driveway, and you're living in the Northeast where we get like lots of snow and ice, and what those people do when it freezes over, I got no idea. But this has been a lot of fun, but I do got to pick up my son and take him to his music class.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys wanted to wrap this up soon.
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to show you, because you're going to have to bring my spring up.
Yes,
so
sir.
My claim to fame, because you're talking about visualizations, is on Data Republican /browse. So beginning of 2025, I found Data Republican, and she was looking into NGOs. And I said, wow, that's cool, because she had these diagrams of how like the charities interacted with each other. And I said, it'd be really great if the money flow, if the lines between the charities was proportional to how much money they were spending. And, I didn't get her attention. And then finally, when my mom was in the hospital, I was there with my laptop and I had nothing to do. So I said, okay. And I had Grok write code to do what's called a Sankey diagram, which is what this is showing. So this is showing that, so these are the different charities. So this is University of California, and it's a stop sign because the money goes in and doesn't come out. They don't report who they gave money to. And this is actually all the money that Mark Zuckerberg hands out to various places. So I was just showing that. And so here's the Zuckerberg Initiative Foundation and FDWS and various things. So I was just showing I totally agree with you that like visual tools are best and so on. So being disabled, I had the time to do this.
I'm really glad you brought up Data Republican, because when she first launched that federal grant search website, first thing I did was I hopped on and searched CDL, and you can share my screen here.
I got you. 1 second. I'm coming. I got you. Boom on that, and up here on that. There we go. Is that it?
$204,878,168.29 in federal grants. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And it probably doesn't even cover the whole thing. I was just, you hear about the federal, so part of how the supply chain, the pipeline of drivers got so polluted over the years is states and federal governments were just handing out CDLs to people who had zero business whatsoever being behind the wheel. And everyone always wonders, like, where is all this money coming from? And you can easily find it now using tools built by people like Data Republican. So thank you very much for that tool.
Hey, no problem.
Tell them where to find that again, Grumpy, one more time. I'll put it in the comments.
Data Republican /browse.
/browse. That's it?
Yeah, because she had Graph, and then I said, I want to be able to browse around. And I'm in the throes. I've been working on it since September of last year of revitalizing all that code and doing a better job of it because it takes too long to load and things like that. And so that's what I'm working on.
Stuff like this is what I'm like most bullish about going forward is, guys like Nick Shirley and Tyler Oliveira that are doing like these YouTube videos and stuff. The way that they're finding all this information is through just going through these big public databases, and they are purposely built to be such a huge pain in the ass to like navigate and find any data for. So it's taken people like Data Republican and our friend Garrett with Search Carriers to be able to take all that data and contextualize it in a way that's like easily digestible. So it is getting a lot harder for a lot of this, money and sneakery, to get hidden going forward. It's going to be like, especially the PPP loan fraud stuff that I think is going to be the biggest example of like criminal cases going forward. Because
I'm gonna look into that. I got to find out where the data sources are. For me, it's all about where do I get the data. So if you give me instant data you'd like there.
If you search X for like PPP loan lookup tool, lots of people have like put together tools over the years. Because that's one of the things people realize is like, oh, this is all publicly available data. I'm just gonna download all of it and put it on like a map layer so that it's easily searchable.
So before you go, I know you have to go pick up your son. You mentioned that. So tell people 3 things as I flash up where to find you on X. You guys be sure to go follow Super Trucker over here, Mr. Justin Martin. We've gotten a great information. Then we're going to flash Grumpy out. Grumpy's going to say our closing statements for us. So Mr. Martin with Super Trucker, I'm going to flash your X profile up here. If I could find it, just put it, here we go. So this is where you can find Super Trucker. Tell them the top 3 things they should know based on what we talked about today.
People have no idea who's hauling freight right now. You know, if you're going down the highway and you see a truck, you don't know if that person's got 3 days, 3 months, 3 years, or 30 years of experience behind the wheel. Well, you can find out who's hiring them and who's giving them their freight. It's a lot easier to do that these days. If you see a trucking company or like a truck on the road and you're a little suspicious about it, DM me, DM maybe Danielle on here, and we can do some digging. Hopefully find something interesting. And then pass the Delilah law. There's currently 3 bills I think that would impact trucking the most. One is Delilah's law. The other one is CORCA, the Combating Organized Retail Crime Act. And then my personal one is the GOT Act, GOT, Guaranteed Overtime for Truckers Act. Passing those three laws in sequence would completely change the entire industry within a matter of 6 months to a year.
Nice. So y'all on the back end of editing, stay tuned for the video because all of that information he just gave, I'm going to give nice visuals where you can go find all that information you saw where I just shared to go find Super Trucker on the X platform. Make sure you give him a follow and follow all those links that are in his bio. That will give you the most information when you are curious about someone and you want to get to know them better. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for joining us. And we hope to do this again.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
All right. We'll catch you next time. All right, Mr. Grumpy. What's the top 3 takeaways for today? And you can keep talking about whatever you want to talk about. I'm cool. You know, I'm good with you.
Okay, I sent Justin the address for that traffic school, and I'm going to show you the picture of the Chinese traffic school because it's just funny. So I'm going to read it. So bring my screen up.
Yes, sir.
So it says traffic school, right? And then the Chinese says champion traffic violation. And then I'm reading the letter on the door. It says champion traffic school and champion registration services. And I can't read the other text. And this is all.
It's Chinese.
It's Chinese, and what Justin was just telling us is that they set up these people with CDLs, right? And they don't really know. And I just think it's funny that like the Chinese says champion traffic violation, which means you broke the law driving around, and so we're going to give you a commercial driver's license and register your truck for you.
Wow, that's listen, I'm very rarely speechless. A lot of the stuff that's come across my feed this week, the news that's come out, now this, and once we go down that rabbit hole, we can't go back. We have to find out, and more people need to get involved. However you can help, go check out Grumpy Tech Bro's X platform. Make sure you're following him. He gives great articles, great information. I'm sharing the tab right now. One day I might get better at this, Grumpy. Keep praying for me. So here's Grumpy Tech Bro. He's now in his title. The handle is at Grumpy Tech Bro. He's a little bit grumpier right now, so he'll probably be sporting the Grumpier Tech Bro title with next to the blue check mark for a little bit. So what are your top 3 takeaways that you would like people to take away from today?
Okay. 1, pass the save deck. Because if we can't have real elections, what the hell are we doing? 2, a lot of the fraud going on is only because no one is watching. Maybe Danielle posted the other day, it's Danielle E. Just extra E's. There's not that many people that are inspectors for the Department of Transportation. And that's just the pattern. A lot of this fraud is not really that hard to find. It's just nobody was looking, right? Justin was just talking about how easy it is to find the chameleon carriers. And then there was a Supreme Court decision a couple of weeks ago where the Supreme Court said, yeah, if you're contracting out your freight delivery to somebody else, you're kind of responsible. There's no like, the freight brokers can't just launder and say, oh, we can just hire one everybody. You're
Right.
responsible, so you better be sure that they have real insurance and not fake insurance. And
Proper
money talks and
vetting.
bullshit walks, right? And so that's going to be proper vetting and things like that. And I expect all the truckers have gotten pissed off and hooked up with nerds, and they're building websites so that they can go and like look at trucking firms and say, hey, what's going on with this or these people, and if we don't have enough inspectors, we have to make them super productive. And this is where it's 2026. AI can help with all that. And, that's what I'm kind of doing now, because my goal is Elon was trying to save $1 trillion and I'm trying to save $1 billion. So that's a milli Elon. So there you go. I'm trying to be 1/1000th of an Elon, of an Elon.
I love it when you say that, because you could tell that's true passion, because he says it exactly like that. If you see our past content that we've done together, he always says that. So it's an honor, of course, to always have you on here. I'm super excited every time we get to do this. So y'all, if you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with Grumpy Tech Bro. My DMs are always open. Y'all give me grace. I usually get to them within 24 to 48 hours. So hang tight. Y'all, we have so much more content coming your way. But for right now, we got to dip out. I got to get something to eat. Grumpy's probably, got
taco time.
things to take. It's tacos. All right, y'all. We'll catch you on the flip flop. Thanks for joining us. Grumpy, thank you so much for joining.
Always a
She walks in, coffee in hand, name badge swinging like a brand, wild and wired on her sleeve. Every whisper she retrieves. She's got
Tabs open in her mind, deadlines racing double time. Blink once, whole story's gone. She's 3 plot twists ahead, move on.
Regina knows the news, Regina knows the gossip. Say it to a friend, she already clocked it. One hell of an opinion, better pick your side. Regina runs the room for Wild and Wild.